Okay, here you go, Mark. To taking the content or the context and finding a place for it.
Just
Because that's
organizing.
because I could fill this board up times 3. You're finding where does it fit.
Yeah.
I like that.
So here, it's, you're gonna, at this point, once you've done this, we're gonna focus on filling in that gap, and that's sort of the nugget for that whole chapter. When you think about it, that right there, that concept is the nugget for this, because you're gonna challenge them to not focus on their areas of strength and work on that, but to challenge them and encourage to focus on the weakness in some way.
So basically what we have to tell them is this happens for everyone.
Yes, it's just a matter of where.
Yeah, and where can relate to when. So you're gonna look for that. You're gonna look for it, you're gonna go, okay, the principle of quit is gonna happen, or I can't do it, or...
Right, and then quit is also procrastinate, which is just another word.
Sure, but it's a bigger, cooler word.
Yes.
Well,
I'm just gonna put that off, it's lower on my priority list or whatever, but it's essentially you quit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the principle of the quit, right? And then remember that, this list is called resist the temptation list to do these things which are common to man, right? So acknowledging that as you come down, because this result right here, this result, that's the purpose for which you're doing whatever you're doing. And so this result is important to accomplish it, and knowing that that's where we're keeping our mind, and when that result is, I need to work on my relationships. So the principle of the quit or procrastination and resist the temptation to go sideways, when this obstacle, we call this an issue, an obstacle, concern, or crack or crevice, rears its ugly head, you got to know, I'm doing this. This is what we call the why. Why am I doing these things? Well, it's to get the result.
And that's a great worksheet. That's a great exercise to do. Either before or after. If you're looking, down here for in your workbook.
Yeah.
One of your exercises is going to be in each one of these areas, and you don't have to do them all at once, but okay, we're just going to focus on, the business. Why are you wanting to do what you're doing, and helping them identify that and have that in mind, and mark it down as a priority. Because I know when I had to do that exercise, writing down the priority made it real, and it also helped me recognize, this really, what I'm doing right here really isn't feeding that at all. So either my priority needs to change to match what I'm doing, or I need to change what I'm doing to match the priority, and writing it down.
Well, see, that really is the meat and potato. The meat and potato is, if we look at it, again, we call it the end of the road syndrome. Okay? Here's the end of the road. Right? And so our life is, all this stuff up to the end of the road. So either we can decide how we want this to end up with significance instead of regrets, and then we go backwards and we do what's called reverse engineer the successful steps or the things that we want to achieve along the way, so we know that we're going to hit this thing and not live a life of regrets.
That's in here. That's where you're going to tell them, this is how we're going to avoid this guy's fate.
The problem.
And this is how we're going to achieve that guy's fate, is by doing that. So you're going to put that at the end of chapter 1 and then encourage them, and here's how we're going to get you this.
So what you're saying is this is
That's a regret.
This is where most men fall.
Yep.
Most? Few. right?
Yep.
So if most go here, right, this is the path of least resistance. Okay? Least resistance means it's easy.
Yep.
So if this is the path of least resistance, this has to be the path of most resistance. Most resistance means it's harder. Okay? Now, it might be hard to crack a safe unless you got the combination. So just because it's hard doesn't mean it's hard, you can't do it. If you have the recipe, or if you have the right steps, or if you have the right tools or templates or training, you can get any outcome that you want.
That's an illustration,
Okay.
an excellent illustration, and we want to pepper this. Illustrations, their purpose is to clarify what is complicated,
Right.
okay, and to give them something specific. And you can illustrate in a lot of different ways. You can illustrate with a hypothetical like you just did with the safe. It's a great illustration. It's hard to get into that safe unless you have the combination, so it doesn't mean that...
It doesn't mean you can't get in.
That's right. But you have to have the right tools, or you have to have the right knowledge, or you have to have the right something to get in there.
Or you can do what most men do. Well, where's the big old sledgehammer?
Right.
Let me try and muscle my way through.
So that's an illustration. Another illustration that you're starting out with is a story.
Okay.
So you're illustrating what regret looks like, and hopefully in a compelling enough way that where they're reading it, they're going, oh, you know what?
It's me.
I do that too. And oh my gosh, I'm going to end up where he is.
I'm on the path to regret.
Here's a guy that I've always admired, and
Yes.
you know, these are the guys that, you know, I read all these motivational books, and these are the guys that I want to look like. I'm going to show you how to do that, and how to be one of those guys. And that's the principle right there.
So you're saying that's...
Yeah, what you're doing is you're giving them a promise. That's the value proposition.
Oh, I like that. Here's my promise to you,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, and then, you know, in terms of marketing, that's your value proposition.
Yeah.
You're going to put in so many hours or so much information or so much effort, and this is the value that you're getting out of it, and they're going to make that ROI calculation in their mind. And so you're right, you're trying to make that perspective ROI very, very high here. And if you do that in a nice, compelling way, and I think you can with that right there, you know, then they're bought in, they're sold, they're ready to go with chapter 2.
I love that. So we're going to speak that ROI. Let me ask you a question. You know, if there were one simple thing you can do to change the end of the road as it relates to your children, you know, would you be willing to do that small investment for a big return?
Right.
Right? And you just give them one simple principle.
Yep.
Date your daughter, you know, same place, same time. Well, I don't know what to do. You know? That's like not knowing where you're spending your money. I can tell you you're not spending it the way you want.
Right.
So give God first, everything else will work out. Plan to meet the same time, same place, same seat, same day, and you've shortcutted building a habit. Which, by the way, we have to remember, and I'm totally up for changing what this thing is. Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, that represents the cross. So I'm willing to make that anything you think we need to make it from a title.
I wouldn't change anything right now. Something may inspire you later, and if it does, great. And there's very rarely a perfect title.
Okay.
You know, it's good, better, best. Okay, so here, where I was going with here is, you know, as we're thinking through your chapters, you can start thinking of exercises that you might have them do. You know, so here, you know, one of the exercises is to have them identify their priorities in each of the 5 areas or something.
You can keep doing what you're doing. That's just for me.
Okay, so here, one of the exercises is have them identify the why. In each, you know, and it may, you want to do it, you may want to break this up so that you wait until you get to this chapter before you have them do the why. Or, you know, or you can have them do it all at once so that they buy into the whole thing. I don't know. That's
Well, and I think that is, that's a first line thing, because that will guide and direct. You know, one of the things we teach is the principle of top. Think on paper. You don't start your day until you've already completed it on paper before the day starts.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to stay on track, know what you're going to do before, remember, when the opportunity arises, it's too late to prepare.
Right.
So how about prepare your day for what's going to happen? And the beauty is, Pareto's law, here's the beauty. You want to find hope? 80 to 90% of what you do every day is recurrent.
Mm-hmm.
You only have 10 or 20% of your day that, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Right? So if you can plan out your recurrent activities, which take up 80 to 90% of your time, and make those habits so you could say, I'm going to achieve a life of legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to achieve a personal goal of speaking Italian. So on my 25th anniversary, when I take my wife back to the place we met in Italy, I'm going to do that because part of my day is to study 5 minutes of Italian. Right? So again, the principle of building a habit to put in place as the action to accomplish the result in each of those areas of their life is, this was, you know, a guy gave me this study up habits, but they're all based on the cross.
Right.
So.
Okay. So as we're thinking through our exercises, here's chapter 2 now. We got Pareto's Law. We got to talk about overview the 5 areas, kind of give them that preview. You've cracked it open here, in just a very brief. So you're saying here are the 5 areas that we're going to talk about. Here's where you actually break out the 5 areas and describe them in a little more detail. So each one will have a section that's maybe 400, 500 words, where you're just describing what that area is and why it's important and why it fits in, why you lumped that one in and why you haven't included something else, that kind of thing. It's just the rationale behind the 5 areas. Then the whole enemy warfare thing and his main war is being deception, and how deception can keep you from this principle, and how deception can keep you from going there. Challenge them to go there, and maybe a worksheet to have them identify, well, what's it worth? Why do you want to bridge that gap? And is that worth it? Is the effort worth it for you? And the answer is obviously yes, but.
So it's the worth of your why.
Yeah.
The stronger the worth is for that why, the more you'll stay on track.
Yep.
However, the stronger the worth of that why, the more the enemy is going to put a crack or a crevice or an issue or obstacle concern in front of you accomplishing that result.
Right.
Keep bringing it back to that.
Yep. So what we've solved here in this is the number one thing that keeps people from being successful is they quit.
They quit.
So we're going to keep them from. This is the anti-quit chapter.
And why do they quit?
Mm-hmm.
They quit because they don't have a plan to succeed.
Well, there's lots of reasons. That's
Yeah.
certainly one. I mean, this is really compelling.
Yeah.
Because there's usually some area they don't want to focus on because it makes them feel bad to focus on it, or they don't think they can. There's shame,
value.
or they don't have the knowledge that they need to bridge that gap. Well, get that knowledge. There's ways that you can fix that, or you can get help. Somebody else who does that well, you can partner with them. There's lots of ways to bridge that gap, including personal development. And so just don't let that gap keep you from success. It's the anti-quit chapter.
And understand, and again, when the opportunity arises, it's too late to prepare. So the concept of preemptiveness, right, which is preparation for the eventuality that something's going to happen. So I call it front loading. So if we front load everything that possibly could happen, there's going to be some things that fall out of our ability to front load. And we say, resist the temptation. Here's the things that's going to happen. Guys, here's what's going to happen. Because the enemy doesn't want you to get that result, to live a life of significance. He wants to make sure that you don't get that thing. Here's what's going to happen. Okay, so when that happens, know you're going in the right direction. Right?
Right. Yep. In fact, there's a great quote I have on that, and I'll see if I can send to you. There's a quote by a theologian who said, if somebody told me that that my happiness or whatever I was going to, or glory, lay at the end of a very bumpy road, then every bump, every crevice, would tell me I'm on the right road.
Right path. Yep.
And by the way, as we were talking about this, this page layout thing, you can have these sidebars. There's also a thing where you can insert into here that's just a call out, and it's just where you slap a quote in there from somebody, and the neat thing about guys is when we read, we see the page, and we read the page, and then we come back and we see these right here. And having these actually makes the book feel less overwhelming, to have little tidbits like that. So dropping quotes in, you can also lead off chapters with quotes.
Oh yeah.
And so like if there is a no quitters quote that really is compelling, then you could lead off the chapter with it. So then I'm thinking at this point, once you've told them, the 5 areas, this gap thing, maybe somewhere in here, I'm not sure where, you can maybe last before they go in, okay, maybe a worksheet here where they identify which of the 5 areas they feel weakest in.
I just came up with something. Let's, instead of calling it a worksheet, let's call it the Y sheet.
Okay?
And then you put your, what's your Y's?
Yep. So that's this one.
Yeah.
That's that exercise.
Yeah.
I'm thinking another exercise where they look at, they've just learned what these 5 areas are, and you've described them. They already know which area is weakness. I can tell you what mine is without even digging in. So then maybe just a worksheet to help them identify that, to tell them, okay, read that chapter first, and maybe prioritize them. Oh, that would be cool. Have them prioritize the areas in order of strength.
Well, that's what we do. What we do is we have an assessment.
There you
we
go.
have this assessment, and we create what's called the, instead of calling it the IQ, we call it the HQ, Habitology quotient. And basically what we have is we have the 5 areas, and then we have a top score of 20 that's related to
There you go.
a certain amount of things, and then they rate themselves. I'm a 3, I'm a 7, I'm a 10, I'm a 12, I'm a 1.
Then have them rank it, and that's the chapter you read first.
Correct.
Lowest to highest.
Correct. Yeah.
So then you can tell them, that, here. So do the HQ here, and then instructions for reading.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah,
and you're going to we'll have these written so that they don't have to be read in order.
No, absolutely.
Each one will stand independently so that they can go to one, work on that area, and you can even tell them, hey, based on this right here, you may spend 80% of your time in these 2 areas right here and only 20% here, and that's
Absolutely.
fine.
Absolutely, because it's the result.
Exactly.
It's the result. And we have to resist the temptation, like you said. Remember, go back to point number 7. Resist the temptations to focus on what we do well so we can find valuable.
Right.
We can be valuable.
Right.
But again, you got to lead, you want to handle that.
By the way, also be thinking, in terms of your workbook, you'll have a workbook that you'll need to give people, especially when you do conferences.
Yeah.
But, out there in the world, you can put these online, have them come in, sign up for then you have their name, and then they can do these worksheets online, and maybe even compare themselves against other guys, against a moving average or something like that. So then the idea is there's value in coming to your website, getting their name, and then you build this mailing list so that then when you start your conferences, you have a ready-made list of people you can contact and let them know.
So you're speaking to this. The principle of habitology is going to be one that's carried out. The message is going to be carried out live, right? So the live is going to be, of course, I guess I'm going to have to speak, somewhere. So that's Frank, right? Mark, right? Then the other one is the vision God gave me is it's just the Bible study, right? So that's the live interaction,
Okay.
right? The print is going to be the book,
Yep.
workbook.
Yep.
The web, so you and me. The web is going to be how we leverage the material,
Yep.
and the web is going to be, if you look at that first page there, it's the coaching program, and the coaching program is going to be one from low touch to high touch, right? High touch means they get me, I go in and I help them, to create like what I'm doing for, guy
Sure.
and Anna. But this low touch is meaning high leverage, and that's everything you're talking about
Right.
online.
Yep.
Go into the portal,
Yep.
access this, take your HQ score. But then what I want to have, this is really cool, right? How do we patch the crack, or how do we create the bridge to go over the crack, or how do we just pave it or create a bridge? Sometimes it's encouragement or accountability or reminders. So one of the things I want to do is create, if this is the result we're trying to achieve, right? Let's just say for the heck of it, it's workout. Right? So what I want to create is an app, right? Where you put all of these in, right? You put your you put your task in to get the result, but it's an app, right? And I know it sounds corny, but if the why is my daughter, then my reminder pops up with my daughter's picture and reminds me to stay the course.
Right.
See what I'm saying? Sure. So that's a lot of fun stuff,
Yep.
to do later. But
Yeah.
the point of leveraging the web is all of that right here. How cool would it be, just an aside, how cool would it be to be to gather data on men's habits as it relates to these things and go, here's our average guy. Our average guy when they come in, when they come into the program, our average guy, here's his score. The average guy in America today rates himself from a relationship standpoint at a 6.8. Cool that day.
Right.
To have a receptacle to gather all that data.
Yeah, exactly. And having them come online and do that, you can, we can be gathering that.
Because what we can do is we can leverage men's Bible studies, remember I think I shared with you I wanted to do 500, assessments, and surveys.
Yep.
And then, because then we go, now we've got this, which is really cool. We have our data.
Yeah.
Look, here's what I can tell you. We personally surveyed 787 guys, and we found these are the areas that they struggle with, right?
Right.
And then here's the bridge or the crack or the crevice. You know what I'm saying?
So
this
there's
is juice right
that
here.
that can have a positive and negative effect because
Sure.
one will be okay. Well, God, everybody else is doing that same problem I got,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I don't
of
feel
course.
so bad.
Yeah.
But then if you're one of the outliers, where that you're okay. Well, I don't struggle in that area, and most guys don't struggle with what I'm struggling with. You've got you need to have a way to help them.
Sure.
Overcome that.
See, I love when you say that stuff because then I go, well, then that's what we just tell them.
Yeah.
We just tell them what you just said.
Yeah.
Most guys think that they don't have X, Y, or Z, or it's too big, or it's too dirty or too dark, or most guys say, hey, I'm actually doing pretty good,
Right.
right? Well, let me ask you a question. Ask your wife if you're doing pretty good.
Right.
Ask your kids if you're doing pretty good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, for the purpose, remember, we have to keep our eyes on what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the legacy?
Right.
What's the significance? Who are we serving?
Right. So, just saying that, most people are going to look at it and go, oh, I'm into the bell curve. And that's going to have a positive effect and a negative effect.
Yeah.
And you address both of those. Negative effect could be, well, I'm doing okay if everybody else is struggling here
And
too.
compared to those guys,
Yeah.
I'm a 12.
Right, yeah.
Most guys are a 3. So.
Right. Yeah, right. Okay, so then chapters 3 through 7, that's really, you've already got that. All you're going to do is you're going to spell out, each one in chapters 3 through 7. This right here is the hardest part of the book.
Okay.
Getting the ROI and giving them the overview, to frame the whole thing.
Right.
Because you live in the details. That's where you are. So this will be actually pretty straightforward for you. But to start, let's take the first one and try outlining just that first one, and that'll kind of help the pattern for the other 4.
Okay.
And then I would wait. Then when you've got that, then we'll look at what that conclusion looks like. Because the conclusion is, it's kind of flapping out there until you're writing your book, because it will be refined, and the conclusion will be very clear to you by the time you get close to it.
Okay. Fair enough.
So let's look at chapter 3, because here you've already told them in each one of these you can go and in order. Here's what you should read.
Yeah.
So let's just look at chapter 3. So what is that, personal?
Personal. Yeah.
All right. So what do you want to tell them?
Personally.
Yeah, you've described it already, so they know what the category means. So now, how are you going to develop them in the personal area?
Oh, that's what I teach right there. Personal.
Okay.
So teach them, human nature, tendency, path of least resistance. We've talked about some of those things.
That's okay. Do it again.
So, again, remember, I always start off with the enemy. The enemy doesn't want you to be successful personally. And human nature is a tendency to go to the path of least resistance. Okay? So, however, the reason why you're reading this page is because you don't want that outcome. You want an end of the road that is one of significance. So let's talk about how do we develop significance in our personal life.
Okay. So here, as it relates to personal, you're going to need to identify what significance is.
Yes. Okay.
And identify it, and then maybe even then have them identify them personally as a exercise.
So significance personally is, one of the easiest ways to explain significance is what happens when you do reach the end of the road, right? And you're no longer here personally. Well, what lives beyond you is going to be the things of a legacy. So legacy is obviously significant. And then here's some of the things that we can do to make sure we're on track to live a life that we have a legacy. But really, quite honestly, what I talk about personally, if you want to have, most men are fatigued, right? They don't have the energy they want to have. And that's why we're doing the Red Bulls and the 5 hours and the endless coffee and so on and so forth. So most men are fatigued. So a way to get the result of having energy, studies show that working out or exercising gives you energy. So along the way to working out, from a personal standpoint, you're going to come up against these spots where a crack or crevice is. I don't have time to work out. Well, let me ask you a question.
Let me just break in right here. Right there, those are 2 exercises.
Okay.
So first exercise is identifying what significance looks like in this area, specifically as it relates to personal.
Okay.
And have them write down what they want to achieve and what significance looks like for them personally.
Okay.
I want to be here for Amy when I'm 85.
Yes.
I want to dance at my granddaughter's wedding,
Yes.
whatever that is.
That's exactly it.
They
That's
do that
the why.
here. Then
Yes.
the next one is, and this is why I was saying, this principle here. Yeah, this principle here, of connecting the dots and the gap thing, you've kind of identified it here. Now you're going to do that for every single chapter and maybe even have them as an exercise, specifically as it relates to this area. What is it that keeps you from doing that? So that's another exercise you can have do.
Excellent.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love having, the way my head works is I have a template right here. And this template goes the exact template for each of the areas. So you're speaking right to the
Okay.
So when you say, part of that template could be, significance, right? Well, what is that? See, if we identify this right, if we identify the why, and we identify the crack in the crevice preemptively here, okay, we go, this is what's driving me. This is going to be the obstacle over which I have to go, or I'm going to plow through it to get my goal. So if we say, okay, from a significance standpoint, okay, from an energy standpoint, because it's fatigue, from a from a leadership skill set, so we can make a difference and be significant. How we lead, how we encourage, those types of things. Are we organized or not?
Okay, so I'm looking here, and I actually see a couple of areas for this right here.
Yeah.
Okay, one is just exercise. If you can identify the dots and help them figure out for them what's keeping them from doing the exercise that they need to do,
Yeah.
and then help them identify what the habit would be
Yes.
to overcome that right there, because they don't need help here. Those are already okay. If you can help them identify that habit, then you've applied Pareto's law again. Look, you really don't have that much of a problem. You only have a 20% thing here. You just develop that habit right there. Everything's connected and you get the result that you want as it relates to exercise.
Yes.
Now do
let
that
me give you-
again for these
the
other
others.
areas.
So let me give you an illustration on exercise. Okay? The illustration is this. I would say to my wife, I need to work out. Okay, can you remind me to work out? Yeah, I'll remind you to work out. Say, I really need to start working out, right? Really need to start working out over and over and over again. Finally, she said, here's the deal. I'm putting your sneakers and your t-shirt and your shorts at the foot of the bed. When you wake up, you can step into your sneakers or you can step over the sneakers. The choice is yours, right? So, so part of these things, these obstacles could just be something so simple. And what happens is there's I think we may or may not have talked about this one principle. This is a big one. It's the principle of planning and doing, right? I don't know if we shared this or not, but planning goes down over time. Doing goes up over time. And then we create what's called the dew point. And the dew point is where you go, I'm just putting my sneakers on and exercising. I'm not going to say, do I have time? I'm not going to say I can't do it. I'm just going to exercise, period, end of story. Because the path of least resistance is, I don't have time. Well, wait a second. We've already preemptively prepared. You're going to work out 3 times a week. Just go and work out. And then come back and do your other stuff. So I just wanted to share, this is a huge one that I teach.
Okay.
Planning and doing.
The question that I have then is, we've got to find a way to get that principle across if somebody starts out reading chapter 5. So we may, we'll have to find a place for that where everybody will see it, so that then you can apply it in here. So it might be you need another chapter.
Well, what if we had, say these were our pages, what if we had something at the start of every chapter, right? We're going to have our you know, our title, our quote, and I put our scripture. So what if we had, you know, some sort of hallmark, we call it our you know, our 7 principles for whatever, or 3 things, or maybe there's a way that we remind them either of this, and we could do it real easily. We could do it with, you know, fade outs and then one in bold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I don't know how it works, but yeah, maybe that's just workbook driven or something like that. I don't know. We don't want to have to say at the beginning of every thing, okay, go back to page 7 or reiterate the information.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is we've identified in here that maybe, you know, this is a question, I don't know. We may need another chapter in there to get across some of these principles that then we can apply before we get to the individual. So maybe you may have to identify.
The universal, you know, Habitology's universal principles, you know, maybe there's, you know, 7, 12, 17, whatever the case may be.
So we may have in here, we'll just call it the principles.
Yeah.
Chapter.
That's a good chapter. I mean, that's going to end up being a resource that they will come back to over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way, as they go into each one, you can say, and if you need to be reminded, just go back to the principles chapter number 4, or whatever it is, and then you can give a brief. Okay, remember that chapter. You know, we're going to find our dew point in this, and for the dew point for exercise, for me, it was this. For you, it might be something else, a worksheet to then help them identify it.
Yeah, and you know, maybe one of those principles is, you know, the principle of repetition. You know, you might hear me repeat this over and over again, but it's for a reason. Right? Framework, you know, future pacing, you know, that type of thing. So I like where you're going.
Yeah. So we may have to pause and identify that, you know, what principles you want to include there. But let's continue with the personal one just for now, because that fleshed out something important. It may do some more.
So one of the things that most men tell me they lack is energy, right? So we talked about working out. So we can, I mean, I can go down into, you know, basically what I teach them is you got to work out, and that's a hallmark habit, because studies show when you work out, when you put the habit of working out in your life, it positively affects every other area of your life. Then we talk about, you know, I mean, you're going to have to kind of pull me back a little, because I talk about, you know, are you drinking enough water? Are you know, because most people are dehydrated, and, you know, you get headaches and pain and all that stuff. Our food source doesn't contain, you know, vitamins and minerals. We're depleted of that. Everybody knows we should take a multivitamin, and, you know, so I have that section.
There, what you can do is reference resources.
Okay.
Which, by the way, you can sell on your website.
Perfect. How about a worksheet on stuff like that?
I would say, yeah, because what you're going to do is wherever, I mean, throughout, you're going to take this principle right here and apply it to everywhere, and that's where really what's going to drive most of your worksheets is helping them figure out, well, you know, I'm okay on the intellectual.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm in organizational, I'm pretty okay in leadership, legacy, you know, physical, you know.
Terrible.
Okay, well, I need to go there. So then you drill in a little deeper. Okay, well, let's look at that physical thing. Is it the working out? Is it the eating habits? Which, you know, then you're going to break those down. And then you're going to have resources that they can go to. If that's your area, hey, here are some resources that will help you. And if it's just nutrition, then, you know, you've got some nutrition resources, because I already work out. I get enough sleep, but I eat terribly because I'm on the road all the time.
So crack and crevices, I'm on the road all the time.
So then you have resources for what that would be. Somebody else has written, or you may write it.
Correct. And you know, what I'm a big fan of is saying, again, have you read Good to Great? No, I haven't. Well, here's the premise. Good is the enemy of great. Do you want to be good, or you want to be great? Path of least resistance or most resistance? So here's what I can tell you. You can read, if you want to go all the way down to the nub and read the entire resource, here it is.
There you go.
Here's what I can tell you. Here's some of the things you can do very simply today, right? Eat less, exercise more, you'll lose weight. Spend less, make more. You'll, you know, so I'm saying we can give them the practical nuts, which is Pareto's law.
Yep.
Right? 20% of this list is gonna give you 80% of your results.
Yep.
So if you just do these 3 things.
Right.
Right? Put your sneakers on and work out when you say you're gonna. Don't think, because when you think,
Right.
you're gonna rationalize.
Yep.
So-
So that's going to be the paradigm of your whole book, really, is helping them find that and then find whatever habit or whatever else is going to fit that, fill that in or help them bridge it. And however deep you want to go. And, it's important to understand, that it's not important that they finish the book. It's not the goal.
Sure.
The goal is to improve whatever it is, because they may be working on this book their whole life.
Absolutely.
So if they only get as far as chapter 4, and they spend their life the next couple of years getting chapter 4,
Yeah.
worked out, because that was their area of problem. Who cares whether they read the rest of it or not? You've helped them improve, and they're going to be grateful to you, and they're going to come back to you.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So don't worry about, like most places, most people, I would tell them, okay, be careful about how deep you take them, because you'll rabbit trail them so much
Yeah.
that they'll never finish the book.
Yeah.
Well, for you, that's not the goal anyway. For you, the goal is for them to go to their area of weakness and fix that thing. And if that is a rabbit trail for them, and they need to go there, great. Let them spend as long as they need to there, and if they don't finish the rest of the book, you've still helped them in that area of greatest area.
So you're saying that they can dig as deep as they want. We'll provide them enough information to dig as deep as they want. But I'll tell you, man,
Right.
most men would prefer not to work. They would prefer to think,
Mhm.
think,
Right.
and never do anything. So I want you to know you got to resist the temptation to drill down to Mexico or China, and let's get something done,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, but we give them the opportunity. To dig as
Exactly,
deep as
because they
want.
may need, it all comes down to, as I'm looking at my whole physical thing, really, this is where I hurt the most, and if I fix that, all the rest, all the pieces kind of fall into
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
And, so the idea is to help them
I like
find
that.
that place.
See, I like that. See, that's a, what do we call it? Let's say foundational or master habit, or what would we call something that is the keystone habit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's a keystone habit. A keystone habit is if we put that thing in place, the dominoes start to fall, right? So the sooner we can put this keystone in place, be it exercise, definite keystone habit, giving, over here, give, cannot give God, right? So if we can do this, this would be really cool. So you know how we have these, right? So let's just say we did something like this.
But the keystone habit may be different for each person.
Well, that's what we think. That's what we think. But if we said, what's the result that you want to achieve personally? Or that one's kind of a little bit nebulous because it is personal, it's individual. But let's say from a financial standpoint, don't most people, right, want to save more for the things that are coming and spend less? I mean, most people want to do that, don't they? I mean, isn't the result that you have like money saved for tomorrow rather than spend it all today? So I'm thinking that there are some recommended habits that will drive other habits that you may want to consider.
I agree, but that's going to be based on most people. What I'm suggesting is, this is the power of this thing right here, is you can talk about this information and you can say there is a keystone habit.
That's what I'm saying.
That for you may be different than it is for him, because he doesn't struggle with that one.
Got it.
The keystone habit is the thing that fills in that gap right there. His may be over here. So for me, my keystone habit in the area of physical may not be what it is for somebody else.
I see. So
we're going to help them
what it is.
identify what theirs is.
I think that we're explaining it different then, because the action steps, the habit, that's okay. Let me just figure this out for a second, because I think you're definitely onto something. Okay. result, right? Steps, for lack of a better word. So we're doing this, right? Right? So you're saying for one person, that's the deal, right? For somebody else, that's the deal.
So let's look in the personal area. As I'm looking at the personal area, okay, we all struggle with human nature. It's just a matter of figuring out where in there my human nature is falling apart. Am I prideful?
Yes.
Or am I so self-loathing
Yes.
that I've got this?
Yeah,
Or-
I have no value, I have too much value.
Right,
Continue.
exactly. So, it may be somebody else in physical, they may be doing fine on their eating habits,
Yeah.
but portions may be,
Right.
a problem, or
Eat the
what
right
they
things,
eat.
but too much.
Right, or it may be that they're not working out, but
Right.
they eat great,
Right.
or they're working out all the time, but they
Now I
eat
get what you're
terribly.
saying. So,
So the idea is to help them figure out where are
Yes.
specifically are you falling apart?
Yes.
Because you have one, it's just identifying where it is.
ooh, we're into something good here. This is really, really good. Okay, so let's say the result from working out's not the result.
No.
The result is what happens when you work out,
Right.
and more energy. I can potentially live longer, right? So the what is here. Work out. This is really good, Mark. I haven't explained it this way. The why is the result. Increase energy, increase health, increase life, for lack of a better word. Okay, so here's the set of things that are,
So let's say you were to do some research and figure out, okay, people who work out all the time and consistently, what is it that
they do.
or what is it that motivates them, or what are the factors, whatever it's, because it might be that, it's just not fun.
Let me put this up.
Oh, sorry.
No, please.
It's just not, fun needs to be part of it because you enjoy it. Because some people go to the gym because they like lifting weights.
Sure.
I hate lifting weights.
Yeah.
I'd rather do something else.
Sure.
Because
Rather
it's,
sit on the
lifting
couch
weights
and
is
watch
not
football
fun. So the answer for you may be the what you do here, it needs to be fun.
Yeah.
Tennis, you like tennis? Go play tennis.
Yeah.
Do something.
Okay.
So, and if you could do some research to find out what those factors are, and again, anytime you can support it with data, you're really you're gonna get guys looking at it because they can't argue with facts, can't argue with data.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, this is what I'm trying to say, is it's unequivocal that working out is something we should do. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. That's what I would call a keystone
Right, gotcha.
habit.
So we just need to find for them the nomenclature for.
The terminology for it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. See, that's
Gotcha.
what I'm talking about. And again, that's the beauty of Pareto's law. Look, Pareto's law is pretty simple. There's a set of things that if you do them, this is the outcome you're going to get. You want to have more money in the bank? You can do two things. One of two things. You can make more, or you can spend less. Or how about if you do both of them? Right?
Right.
So that's what I was trying to basically explain, but that was very helpful. You just took me through. Very helpful.
So then, and the beauty in that is you can get very individual with people. Because that's essentially what you do.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
And it's all based on this.
Right.
Where are you? How do you rate yourself?
Right.
Right? You got a femoral bleed out. We're not going to, go, hey, you're great. We got great big biceps.
Right. So then, that's, in personal significance, if you're going to unpack each one of these areas, explain what they are, you can have subsections under each one. So like the physical, you might have eating habits, in which include your hydration. You would have your workout habits, sleep habits, whatever other, subsets, and then encourage
exactly what we
each
teach.
one of them to go to a worksheet where they assess themselves on sleep, assess themselves on eating habits, assess themselves on workout. Well, okay, well, what keeps you from working out? Okay, I rate low on working out. I actually eat pretty clean and I sleep well, but I don't work out. Okay, well, here are the factors that successful people who work out regularly, here are the factors that keep them in. They value their health. Maybe you don't value your health as much as you think you do. Or they choose it because they do something that's fun, so the fun keeps them. They do it because it's social.
Yeah.
You know, these are the factors. So which factor is keeping you or is not in place that if you put it in place would make me go, oh, well, it needs to be fun and social. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then find something that's fun and social. Join a basketball league, join a volleyball league, play tennis, get a workout buddy.
What you're talking about is the habit loop. I'm just making that for myself.
Okay.
To go back to that. But yeah, that's what I did is I outlined all those questions. How much you're sleeping, how much water,
There you
how much
go.
vitamins, what's your ideal weight, do you have a plan to achieve your optimal weight, how are you doing cardiovascularly, how are you doing from a strength, how are you doing for flexibility. So that's what I did on all this, because this was my assessment.
Yep.
Then I would put this into the grading system and give them points, and that's how I'd come out with their HQ.
There you go. And, you know, and all of that is just tailor-made for the web. So you can drive into the web, having these assessments
Yeah.
online, you're collecting data, you're
Yeah.
getting their name for later follow-up
Yeah.
and engaging them with live content.
What I've done with a couple of programs, a couple of books, in fact, is they basically acknowledged that right up in front, hey, all of these worksheets are online here. So, you know, for some of you that like to have your book printed out and have your workbook, you can do that, or you can do it online. Either one choice is yours. But, you know, they would, that's where they would take us. It's right to the web.
Yep.
You know, I like that. And then, of course, when they take you there, right? So when you go to the web, right? So you go to the web, and then, you know, you've got the video of each one of these things. Hey, thanks for visiting us today. Remember, we're going to stay on track. And remember, for most men, here's the 7 things that we're going to stumble over. And, you know, as you're going down a path you're working out, remember, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and you know, all along the way, there's also places to monetize.